And we're back here once again with another episode of the Cloud9 podcast, season 17, episode 2. So I hope you guys had a great day, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week that is ahead of you. And in this episode of the Cloud9 podcast, I am going to be talking with Madscot, aka the person that runs Inside Fnatic's Brush. He is a huge fan of Fnatic, and I'm pretty sure Legends in Action will be coming back eventually. But I always called it Legends and Getting Butt Fucked. That's my personal title for it. Fnatic lied about this because it's literally in I think it was in the video that they put out for the LEC 2025 summer split. It was the split where it had arguably one of the worst formats ever next to that LCS one where they had that pick and play bullshit. I swear last year, both the LEC and the LCS were having like actual UFC fist fighting matches to see who made the worst format. I don't know what was the worst format. The format the LEC had last summer or the LCS, because that shit was ass. Both of them were just like turbo mega ass. But then, as you guys know, in Fnatic's, I think it was the Legends in Action episode they released last year at the end, where it was the series where Oscar Renan popped off against Conor. It's crazy. That was his only good series ever. He's been actually just turbo ass ever since he started. But then, remember at the end of the episode, they tease what they were going to show at Worlds 2025, because remember, Fnatic went to Worlds 2025, and for some reason, Riot decided that IG and T1, you mind, IG, who's a previous Worlds winner with Rookie, who had just came back to IG, and the defending world champions, which is T1, they had to play a play-in match. But Fnatic, who went 0-3, like X3 drop, got a chance to get 3 lives. You know what? And people want to argue to me that these formats are actually made with any level of thought to them. But remember at the end of the episode, it was teased they were going to show you what happened at the Worlds 2025 tournament. Never happened, guys. And then what happened was, on their YouTube channel, they put out, hey, 2026, new year, new me. They just like completely skipped over what the hell apparently happened. That's how you know it was bad. The fact that shit probably was going to be like Breaking Point 3.0. If you guys don't know what that reference was. Guys, Sam Matthews literally tweeted like, hey, I'm happy with what the new boys are doing, with the way that content creation is looking like right now for our team. Didn't you guys point out on your last video you were going to show us what happened at Worlds 2025? Literally just skipped it over. I was like, all right, what the fuck? But we'll get into talking about Fnatic in a little bit, all the ups and downs, mostly downs in the more recent years, actually, about what's been going on with the org. Before I get into that, I want to let you guys know something. This show's been here for a very, very long time. I've been doing it since 2020, so we're coming up on 6 years of doing the show. I absolutely enjoy doing it, and I do truly want to thank every single person that has, helped me with the show from the very beginning all the way up to where it is at now. I've only ever did one episode by myself because I had to get that episode done in that moment in time when that season was, airing on, the channel. But there's going to be some changes on the show, but you know what? New horizons and new adventures, as they always say in League every single year. So let's get to know you first. So just in case you come on the channel at some point again, we talk about the LEC at some point again, which is probably very soon, because the LEC is going to be going on, year round and every year for a long time, just best of threes. But
we'll see.
So let's start with your League of Legends discovery, then we'll go to team, and then we'll do the esports side of it. So how did you get into playing League of Legends? Were you always into like MOBAs, or did you just come across because you were talking to some friends and they were interested in it?
Yeah, for me, like, it's historically, when it comes to video games, I was more of like a single platformer. I was a big Nintendo fan, so I'd play a lot of solo game adventure games, and not too much like online computer games. And it was when I was a student, I had probably one of the only guy who was as much as a geek as I was. The other one were very serious. It was like, "Oh, yeah, have you heard this game? It's from guys who came from, the Warcraft team and everything." I was like, "Well, I know a bit of Warcraft. I've just played it here and there, but I never really played much of an online game." So for me, it was a complete discovery, the sub MOBA genre, and that was back in 2012, 2013, where I was trying to understand the game, and I was like, "What exactly am I doing here?" Like, it's completely different from playing platformers like Mario, adventure games like Zelda, which were really my basis when it came to video games. And then at the same time, as I was looking online to sort of understand what the game was about, I stumbled on the pro scene. And that's how I discovered Fnatic. I stumbled on an interview from
Which
Expeke with
season?
Shucks.
That was
That was
season.
2013. That was like middle of 2013,
Oh,
roughly.
okay. That
Yeah.
was the one where, oh my god, I know what you're talking about. It's the one where she's interviewing him and he's saying that she's pretty or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one. It's exactly
Yeah,
the one
and
where
that's the year
it's
that what
always been
Reckless.
like somewhat flirtatious, and there's a lot of back and forth. So that was the one I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, because usually you would picture people who'd maybe go pro into video games as the traditional big geeky guy, and you have
Yeah.
expect it was like this really gotta say tall, handsome Spanish dude, with a certain charm, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's canon, yeah. So I saw it and I got interested in TNT, and I was like, these guys are a bit crazy, like they're laughing during playing games and just shouting about. And the fact that they were performing well, always a big attraction for any newcomer onto the scene. So,
Okay.
all in all, and then I just got started interested in the organization, which meant that I actually watched the other games in which they were playing. So that went into Counter Strike. That went in later into even Heroes of the Storm when they had the team there, Paladins. I mean, all the games they participated in 2013, I was just like watching them. Even like games I didn't really understand, like Dota 2. I was like, go Fnatic. I have no idea what's happening on my screen, but
Mhm.
it's Fnatic, so I guess I'll be behind them. And yeah, that passion has kept on for well, now it's going to be 13 years, and that pushed me to come up with Inside Fanatics Brush, which is my little content space only for League of Legends content. And that's been a project I've been working on for, I think, the better part of 5 years, and it's taken many forms, like
That's
only a
crazy.
live podcast, the videos, and all
Yeah,
sorts of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So we started essentially around the same time doing essentially, let's say, League of Legends content creation essentially because
Hmm.
I started this like June something 2020. Like I will say this, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. If we were doing the same kind of content with like StreamYard, like if StreamYard existed like back then when League
Mm.
first like started, when I first got into it, guys, I'm not even tweeting here. I'd be so popular right now with League. But like 2020 was an interesting time because
Mm.
there was another type of era that ushered in for League because that Expectate interview with Shocks, that's season 3,
Yeah, that's season
right?
3.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so I started watching competitive League of Legends Worlds 2014. So that was the
Hmm.
Fnatic roster where Reckless got that pentakill on Lucian.
Yeah.
And then after
Hmm.
that, he left to go to Alliance.
Yeah,
And then you had
exactly.
Huni and Reignover roster. I
Yeah.
hope people understand. Fnatic, I I always would you say that Fnatic would be like the TSM of Europe? Because they were always compared to the TSM of Europe.
At some point, yeah. I mean, it's quite funny because at the time, usually the big rivalry slash friendship was also with Cloud9 because it'd meet a lot during international tournaments.
Yeah, that was
Especially
a big
if you
rivalry. Yeah.
yeah, especially like if you go to 2018, the big semi-final, and
Mhm.
it was quite impressive because Cloud9 had beat Africa Freaks. Well, they weren't necessarily a favorite; they were like sort of an underdog team that
Mhm.
still Korean. So you're like, well, surely they should do something. And it was still impressive. Like I've back in the day, I used to watch LCS quite regularly, and I actually, would watch the big ones, so TSM,
Mhm.
C9, CLG as well, especially when that had that end of 2015, twenty
Mhm.
sixteen run, which was, probably one of the big steps of NA being taken seriously on an international stage, and then it just sort of crashed down with
And looking at
TSM.
it now, now looking at NA's results throughout all these many years, the way that
Mm,
I always tell people is like, you're gonna get some years where you get like maybe an upset here and there, and you'll have
mhm,
one team doing good here and there. But I told people this for me personally, unless you can do it consistently, because this is how the average idiot thinks in League. So the average idiot thinks like, oh, if I did this one time, then that must automatically mean that I should be able to do that every single time. Guys, that doesn't happen in League. The reason why, we'll just break this down for people who are really, really fucking stupid. The reason why you think Korea is going to win everything is because Czech's notes, they've consistently did it for ever since they've joined League, actually. The reason why people think LCS is going to suck ass internationally is because Czech's notes, what is it? They consistently suck complete Omega level ass every single event. People have to understand there's this thing called pattern recognition in your brain. The reason why most people think the LPL or the LCK are going to win the events is because they've consistently almost done it. Now, LPL, varying degrees, obviously, but for the most part, there's going to be at least one of their teams that is going to put up a good performance. Last year, if anyone's Legend had beaten T1, who knows? They probably had a.
It would have been a different conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's like, well, FlyQuest almost beat Gen.G. Oh yeah, brag about a series you didn't win. That's the same thing with Misfits in T1 back in the day. Well, Misfits almost beat SKT. Oh, congrats, you bragging about a series you didn't win. That's like what loser. That's actually what a loser does. A loser goes, well, I almost beat you. Did you do it? No. Okay. So I want people to understand the reason why their power, because everyone always goes, why does everyone think Korea wins every time? Well, if they've won, like, God forbid, 15 world championships, like 20 different MSIs, 8 different first stands, you tell me why you would think they would win a tournament. Just in your mind, kind of theorize it. You know what I mean? So that's why, so bringing it back to Fnatic, like you said, there's a reason why a lot of people think Fnatic can win championships because they've kind of won a good amount of them. So in your brain, you go, well, if you've won that many, why can't you win anymore? That's how your brain should work. When someone proves to you they can win, that should be the standard right there. And asking you, so before we get into the low moments of Fnatic currently, what would be like your favorite moments from Fnatic throughout all time? If you could get like a general top 10.
There's quite a few. I'll put the most obvious ones, which have been for me, like the best years. People are going to talk about like the early years, the worlds, and those. It's hard to say because it was hard to know exactly what the scene was worth. But I like 2015 and 2015, like further than just saying, oh, there was the infamous 18 and 0. A lot of people don't actually remember what the opinion was of Fnatic when they had to rebuild, because you really had the core of the identity of Fnatic that left, and people said, that's it, it's done. You don't have Expeke, you don't have Soaz, you don't have Cyanide. Reckless, which was supposed to be the Wonder Kid, he's left elsewhere with the team has won the previous split, the last split on the previous season. So, Fnatic's turning a page and you're going to get Korean talent, which at the time was still a bit new. And Reignover didn't have necessarily, the best name out there. Was called Game Over. So, that was, people are like, well, why are they going to bother getting him? There's better local talent. And Huni was a complete no-name. He was like a player that was used to train Samsung Blue, I believe, at the time, and it was Yellow Star who went and got him. So it was really rebuilt from nothing. You get Febivin, who's coming from H2K, who is technically like Academy Tier 2 scene, so he was coming up from there. And it's a nice story in the end, because you have what I believe has always made a team successful, was what I call the power of friendship. Basically, is that you don't necessarily know the level of these players, and they might not be all the best in their individual roles, but they somehow make it work. And when you see I don't know if it was called, I can't remember if it was already Legends in Action, but the Legend in Action format at the time, these guys were buddies and they were in a gaming house all together. And obviously, gaming houses aren't much of a thing right now, but at the time they were all sleeping together. Even Daylor, the coach, he was staying with them. Like there's a video where you can see him, he's ironing his pants, right next to Bevan.
You guys don't even know how ghetto even LCS and EUL since at the time was. Yeah. I'm not shitting you. I'm not making this up. This is a factual thing that happened. They gave MVP to a coach.
And they
Even
never
though
gave it to Rainover. Rainover was the only player to not get it, and they give it to Daylor. That is the
I'm not shitting you
funniest
guys.
fact.
When it was called EULCS, this was actually was crazy. That was a big controversy at the time. People were, you
Mm,
guys are too young. You're not gonna remember. They actually gave Daylord MVP when that you literally had coach. You had like the coaching staff, coaches split. It's like
mm.
I don't even know. That's why people don't take the league voting seriously, guys. That's why I've never really taken it that seriously. They gave an MVP to a coach. That happened
Yeah.
when you had Hooney and Rainover on you. Even if you gave it to Febivin, you could have given it to Power of Evil, who was on Unicorns of Love at the
Mm,
time.
mm,
You
mm,
could have
mm,
given it
mm.
to Hillisang when Hillisang was, at his prime before he became a complete running it down, insane person. Hillisang, Power of Evil, Febivin, Hooney, Rainover. Man, that'd be a fucking fire ass team if I was the team
Yeah.
back in the day. Holy shit. Forgiven got rookie of the split. Yeah, so that was
Mm, mm,
deserved when he
mm,
was
mm.
like by far and a whole by far thing he did. Oh my god. Gave MVP to a coach. That's still
Yeah.
so stupid to think about. I was like, what the fuck kind of crack were you people smoking back then?
I think
Oh,
this one was a bit particular because it was sort of to crown the 18-0 achievement, which
yeah.
it's like, it's like, well, it's hard to choose, so we'll just give it to the chief. But it was, I mean, it was never done again after that. But yeah, obviously, 2018 was a magnificent run, and it was a great bounce back from
Mhm.
2017. And 2017, I quite like, especially because, we went to get cats, which, again, nobody knew because the sort of academy scene wasn't that popular
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time. And I think what really marked the transition was that Worlds moment where they brought it back from 0-4 to 4-4 and going through
Mhm.
the ties and qualifying. Like it was very
That was
early
a
in the morning,
night.
so I was watching that. It
That
was
was
like
an
probably like
yeah.
7, 8 in the morning. So I was tired and I was in tears. I was like, this team is absolutely
Another
insane,
crazy riot format. So that day, oh my god. So and what's crazy is the only reason why they got that chance is because they faced off against Longzhu. They lost to Longzhu. They became 0-4. And then IMT lost to Gigabyte Marines. What
Mhm.
kind of formats? If and come on, the run was great. I'm not denying it. It was
The
good.
stars aligned themselves,
Yeah.
basically.
But
That's what happened.
the thing is, man, if you start out 0-4, shouldn't you automatically be out? Like, shouldn't that just automatically be a thing? You go 0-4, you should be out. Like, that's always boggled my mind with that run. It's like you go 0-4, you should just never even have a chance. Riot's formats were always ass, though. Remember the Cloud9 one where they just got into quarters of worlds
Mhm.
just because? What is this?
And you even look at the latest first stand where I believe there were like 2 or 3 teams that had the same score, and it was like, oh well,
No
the sort of
tiebreakers.
head-to-head
Yeah. Yeah.
tiebreaker timing whatsoever, heads or tails that happen. You get to go forward. It's like they have the same score, and I believe the the team I think it was KC who went through, although they had the same score as the NA team, and the NA team beat KC. You're like, so why them rather? It's like,
Yeah. And
it's
because they
never
had an
been
odd number
consistent.
of
That's the
teams.
problem. So you're having to
Yeah.
relearn. You have to read the rule book, and it's like, no, I'm a simple viewer. If I'm used to a format, whatever sense it may have, it's like at least
Mhm.
keep it through. Why are you changing out all the time? Well, like I'm watching the game, and I'm not even sure if after the win my team is still qualified because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some weird mesh happening afterwards. So but yeah, it's always been, in some situation it's worked out for Fnatic. Obviously, there's the backdoor, which is obviously very very
Oh yeah.
famous, and that created the infernal domino of creating G2 and the end of Fnatic in a sense. It's the meme of the guy pushing a small domino, and there's a massive domino
Yeah.
at the end, and that's the rage that boiled inside Ocelote at the end created the G2, and he was determined to end Fnatic's legacy after that. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like small moments really in Fnatic, more in like the early to mid legacy, and obviously they're not as strong as anymore in those past few years where. And I don't know, there was like this Fnatic soul where you're like, there's always a way that they're gonna turn it around. There was a glimpse of it in Madrid, obviously, last year for the qualification, where it's like, well, team's not looking great. Casey, even with the recent troubles, still, look lethal in a good day. And obviously they have Kana with Oskarnin, who's really had a terrible season. Like only Winter was his good split, and even then it was really during that playoffs moment where it felt like he was good because the rest of the team was so bad, but he was still.
Yeah,
It felt like he was still trying, and then
yeah.
at the end, I mean,
Oh, dude, you know
that's
what
what.
was bad on Euphoria when they're debating on if he's a top four player? The
Mhm,
Oscar Renan, I always kind of look at it like this. He was just kind of a passenger on a top four team. Because if a player's on a top four team, you'd think like, oh, that person's probably like debatably one
mhm,
through four. No, it doesn't. Sometimes could just be like not even a role player. You're just kind of there. I was kind of theorizing maybe because Fnatic have money issues potentially. He's like worth maybe like a penny, and if
mhm,
he actually turns out to be good, like a relevant was good for like that little bit of brief period. If he's good
mhm.
for that brief period, you could just sell him off though. It
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense business wise. You gamble on a player that might not be that good. He looks good for a few splits, then you can sell him off for a lot of money. It makes
Mm.
perfect sense to do it, but he didn't have that. He,
No, he was too inconsistent for his
yeah,
career, and it's just like it was really a roller coaster for him. It's like there's a moment in the split where he's good, and the next split he's
yeah,
completely invisible, and then he's back, and like even the last summer split he played is like he was he was okay-ish during the regular season, and then he's
yeah.
like, wow, that game against KC, you're like, oh my god, he finally understands what he needs to do on the team. And then there's the Koi game, and you're like, yeah, that's.
It's
I
the
mean, you could
yeah,
just like resume his career. It would be the KC game and the MCOY game. There's like he can be amazing. Like
yeah.
that when he joined Fnatic in the middle of 2023,
Mhm.
I mean, the guy came in, it was a shit show. It was like they brought back Reckless. Reckless should have never come back in the first place. And
Advian
it was like the
worst.
team was not functional. So he comes
Yeah,
in, he's probably the worst top laner, like nothing's going well. He goes into summer and you're like, that's the guy I've been watching on the LVP and the ERLs. He was the guy who was promising, who can play the carries, but can also play weak side. And he was looking much better. And what does he do? He breaks his fucking hands and he can't play the playoffs. And you're like, the curse. Like I genuinely believe that the Fnatic offices in Berlin are like over ancient burial grounds or something, because there's always some shit that needs to happen. Like even when Jun appeared, obviously him, it wasn't that bad, like, but he broke his leg going into playoffs. You're like, you just like, I don't know, just put them in bubble wrap or something. Like what's going on? Like why are they breaking shit?
do you remember his Renekton games? Those were the worst. It's like I guys, Renekton, even for our level, is a pretty fairly simple champion. It's like one of those simple but complex champions when you really think about it. He couldn't play Renekton to save his life. I'm like, there's no way Fnatic can ever. Your top laner can't play Renekton.
Hmm.
Guys, his Renekton games were like
It was
zero
better to
five.
put him on like a Sion or an Ornn. It's like just front line and play weak side, and then you'll just be good because you're playing a champion that eventually just becomes good. Like Sion just becomes a tank by default, and Ornn, well, at least you'll assist your team by giving them like upgraded items. So you're helping the team even if you're getting pushed your shit in lanes. So yeah, that's for me is a bit disappointing because I was really hoping for him to be finally that new rookie that was kind of missing in Fnatic. We were always getting like big names, especially in 2022, where it's like great names across the board, but the synergy wasn't there. And I was being like a true believer that you need a mix of like veterans and rookies, and that's what's made Fnatic really good over the time, is that they're bringing these new guys in, and who potentially are going to be the future of Europe. Fortunately, they couldn't keep their hands on Cats. They, in my opinion, made the biggest mistake of wanting to keep Reckless because they thought that he was a better choice and he would be probably better for the brand as well, which is understandable, but it might be a hindsight for what I'm saying. But I think when you have Reckless for such a long time and he's brought in all these trophies, but
Mhm.
he did even in 2018, which was a great year for Fnatic. He still struggled. Like the MSI, I remember vividly,
I
was the
know that was
MSI
yeah.
of the
Mhm.
ADCs. Because
Yeah.
you were going to have the Uzis and everything. And it was like, yeah, this is the meta for ADC. So he's going to come in with his Sivir and his Tristana. And it's going to clap. And it was like, probably one of the worst ADCs there.
People
Completely
remember.
invisible.
Yeah. I was gonna point out. People remember that they made it out of top 4. If you guys don't actually remember, people remember like Team Liquid starting bad, but then making it to that tiebreaker. Guys, Fnatic started out good, and then it got to a point where they had lost so many games, they needed that tiebreaker to get out. Like, people forget these things. People think just because you made the playoffs that you must have automatically just had a good run. Also, I never felt like he benched himself for what he said. I never believed him. I felt like the team collectively didn't want to play with him, and he made an excuse to say, I benched myself. That, guys, Reckless had been playing at that moment in time for how many splits is that? It had to have been more than 8 splits.
Well, it was yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, obviously
Like,
because
this is a
he's been
guy who
playing for
literally
ages
went
now.
to go play for Copenhagen Wolves for like a random tournament just because. So he wants to play League. I felt like they were super. I don't know. I feel like winning kind of cured their dysfunction though, because you saw the Legends in action stuff. Remember, you saw Bugsy stuff. It never that version of the team. You could tell we're like, okay, winning is all that really matters, so we can keep our sanity. Because you remember how Broxy came in over amazing? That was like with the whole Nico de Pico situation. That was weird. I never felt like he benched himself for any legitimate reason. I felt like the team said, "Hey, you are not good right now. Can you please like work on your issue?" Remember that was when mages became in bot lane. That's when you had like Swain and everything. And Reckless had always been a very like, I won't say passive.
He was the ADC. Like he didn't have that
yeah.
capacity to adapt. And you know, Fnatic was very lucky to have Bwipo, because Bwipo, even though he came in as a top laner, in his previous years playing for like smaller teams and smaller academy teams, he had played mid lane. So he was like very well versed in mages. So he had no problem like playing a Swain, a Sinjar, or anything. There was no like time to adapt. Like he was already plugged in. And the other benefit is that Bwipo and Hylissang were super friends. So it's like, you're playing two guys who want to play together, who are literally, it feels like they're playing solo because they're just having fun. You know, they're like, you know, get on League, we're going to play. And it just happens to be in the LEC. So it was just the perfect pairing for Fnatic. And again, it's one of those moments where the stars really are aligned for them, where they were an absolute menace. You know, like you'd have Hylissang going Pike, and you're like, I mean, is this a support or is this an assassin? You know, it's like, I mean, I'm not too sure of what role he's playing exactly. And that's the thing, is that, you know, he was lucky that Bwipo was there to sort of bail him out. And when it came back to ADCs, it was like, oh, the prince is back, you know, he's come back. And I was like, you know, I was like happy, obviously, to have him back, but I was always a bit on the edge. Like, I was like, I don't know, it feels kind of weird. You know, like Bwipo sort of does the dirty work of, you know, getting the team through like the better part of the first half of that summer split, and then he comes back and just collects the trophy. Obviously, Bwipo did play some time in the top lane during the playoffs as well, and then obviously had even more time during Worlds. But you know, I think that there's definitely a lot of PR just to not, you know, damage Reckless's brand, to say,
I was
you know,
asking,
he's being the bigger man here. You know, it's like, dude, you're playing Janna, and that was not it. You had to have real mages good, and you know, I think there was a consensus to say, listen, you go in the pool, you take some time off, you go in and bask in the sun, and we'll do the dirty work for you because we enjoy it.
Because the reason why I'm bringing it up, people, is because after they lost to RNG, where he got that pentakill, but you could tell, like you said before, Uzi was a different kind of beast back in the day. These ADCs these days got nothing on how good that guy in Prey and these other guys used to be. Like, you couldn't see the players' faces when they lost to RNG. And like you said before, they played with, I think, Reckless for like 1 week or something during that mage split, I'm pretty sure. And then he just gone. I just never believed and bought the fact that he benched himself. I think the 4 of them, which was Broxo, Bwipo, Hylissang, Cap, I think they had a problem with him. And then they're like, hey, you need to fix your problems, and then you can come back. And he did. He eventually did come back, and they did eventually win. I just know by the fact that a player of his caliber just benched himself just willingly. That makes no sense logically, you know?
Yeah. I think that there was an issue because I think they could see that in my opinion, he was not necessarily willing to adapt to the new meta. And it was like, well,
Mhm.
I play Janna when I play support in solo queue, so I'll just
You're a
stick with
filthy
that. And it's
Jana
like,
main. Oh my
yeah,
god.
we can't really be doing that, unfortunately. Like, and I believe he had like a Syndra game, and it was just, it felt like a kid learning to walk
Yeah.
for the first time. Is just like, it's we understand that you want to be the ADC, you want to be the face. It's a great year for Fnatic, but I think there might have been a consensus where he accepted, but I think he was sort of pushed out as well because it's either you see it straight away and you're like, well, listen, we know what the meta is going to be. I
Mhm.
can't do it. I like my Sivirs, my Tristana, my good old ADCs where I can just jump in and do what I know and like farm 400 CS and be 5 items and just 1v9 the game. And that's eventually what he did, especially in the finals against was it Schalke, where he
Mhm.
had that amazing like final fight. And that's the thing, is like he's capable of doing this, but at the same time you have to realize when you're coming short. And again, they were lucky to have Whipper at that moment, and him getting as many games as possible, especially on the next year in 2019, where Soaz decides to go for the super team with Misfits, and Whipple becomes the real top laner this time. And
Mhm.
that's when things started shifting a little bit within Fnatic as well. Yeah.
I will say one of the best games I still remember to this day from Europe was when you bring up when they lost Caps. Like,
Mm,
if you guys remember when Caps went to G2 and made that super team, that was
mm,
the equivalent of like LeBron James leaving Miami Heat to join the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was like a big player on another team leaving for another rival team. And not the first game they played. Remember the first game they played? Oh, that was horrible. Man, they got destroyed. But the second game, when
mm,
G2 had promised you because Mickey had his wrist injury, remember that whole backdoor situation? That game was wild because Fnatic was winning it. G2 come back. They have that thing where like, oh my god, they do that thing where Whipple goes over the wall with Aurelia and stuns
mhm.
Nemesis and he TPs out of it. They had that crazy backdoor because Fnatic somehow could just love backdooring. You can take the
It
again of
is in the
Fnatic.
genes. It's just
Yeah.
like you have to backdoor, especially if you see G2 in front of you. Like you have to do it. Yeah.
That was probably if I go, that's probably one of my favorite games in Europe ever, minus the Unicorns of Love versus Fnatic game where he had the whole oh my god, the Nexus, they couldn't hit the Nexus for
Nah,
some reason. Oh my god, those games were
that,
wild.
there's so many like gut wrenching games. Like I mean, just throughout every season, it's that's become the identity as well. It's just the heartaches that you get and the heart attacks as well. It's just like you never know what's going to happen
Mhm.
with this team. But that's I guess what still makes it somewhat attractive if you're still really committed to the team. Even obviously with the lack of performances on the last final years, like they're still in some moments able to surprise you, but it's I feeling it's just slowly dwindling that identity that was so prevalent in that 2018, 2019, 2020. It was
Mhm.
still somewhat present in 2021, 2022, but I don't know, it just didn't feel as much where you had some what I've always felt like crazy like profile of players. You had like even you had self-made at some point, which he would just do his thing basically, and that was it. Like he played the Evelyn and just kill it. It's like, yeah, you playing team or solo queue, it doesn't matter. It works, so we'll take it. And then even Whip, like for me, that would be just anecdotal, but when Whipple was put in a jungle role in the 2021 summer split, and he was then going to World, and he was completely rolling over Asian junglers. I was like, I think we found his role, and it made more sense for literally a player who played every role. Like he played top, he played mid,
Mhm.
and he played the bot lane. So what I can't remember who said, if it was a coach or someone else. I said a good jungler is someone that understands every role. So he understands the timing,
Mhm.
understands the
I agree.
matchups.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, Whippo is like he's done his full training, like that's it. And this is the ultimate role for him. And he looked such at ease, and he's able to, play any type of junglers as well because he's playing top lane tanks, so he can play tanks in the jungle. He's played mages, so he can play like AP champs. He can play bruiser, more aggressive, like the versatility. So when he left Fnatic and he went back to top lane, I was like, really? Like, are you sure? I feel like you're really like stepping by what could be like a generational career and just
He, yeah,
establish what
yeah,
it means to be an actual jungler. Because
yeah.
the big Asian junglers, especially at the time, those were guys who, they were on perfect wave timings and everything. Like, why does he know that he's going to be pushed and everything? So it's like, I was taking notes because I'm a jungler myself. So I'm like, I don't even understand, but I'm
Right,
just
right.
so impressed. And Bwipo, like, he was living any enemy jungler. For me, that was Canyon doing that. Like, he would take Graves, lock in Graves, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
your jungler is now in my jungle. Like, you can stay in your base, and I'm just going to farm twice as much as you do and 1v9 the game. And Bwipo, just like, it had specs of that. I was like, oh man, that would be amazing. And it's like, yeah, so he's not staying, and he's not staying jungle. It's like, even if he's not staying within Fnatic, you have to stay jungle. Like, I really believe that you can like start a new era of junglers, inspire new players to say, okay, we have to play like completely demented, not be afraid because we understand the matchups, we understand the gameplay and everything. But that's not what he's done. And then he's had it was a bit better when he got to FlyQuest, obviously, but I feel like he's never been as insane as he used to be with Fnatic.
You feel like
Just kind of lost
yeah. I was gonna point out too. Whenever I was introduced to him, because I was crazy, I've met him personally when he was casting in the LCS, like I think it was like last year or the year before that. He's a
Mm.
person where his personality, minus the controversy he had,
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
minus that, he has the mindset for a jungler though. Like
Mhm, mhm.
what's crazy is he can be that person, I believe, in League of Legends where it's very rare you can do this. You could probably swap this guy, have him try out different roles and see how it goes. I believe he was not a better jungler, but he was as good as he played top lane. He was as good as jungle. And what's crazy is he was very good that split. He did it, and it's so weird that they didn't even try to do it again. It's like you obviously run that back. You
Yeah,
obviously tried to, but apparently the money they offered him, he just didn't want to do it at the time. Because at
yeah,
that moment in time, it was the world situation where Upset
mhm,
had to go back home. So I
yeah,
I, I fully get it was the circumstances probably influenced that decision more than his actual play. Because this was fine.
yeah.
When he said him and Elyoya or Inspire were the best junglers, no guys they were. Like we were crazy. He role swapped from top to
That's the
jungle.
thing. Like that rule sub came from him as well because
Yeah.
he went to self-made. Like from what I remember, he testified this in like one of his streams or whatsoever. He was like, "Listen, the first half of the season was not working out." And it's like, "Listen, either he wanted to take Yankos, and he was like, we have to trade for Yankos, or I go jungle, but something has to happen." And what I think was cool as well is that self-made, while he might have this sort of Eastern Europe sort of style to him where he's very raw in his feedback and everything, and it's never personal for him. He's just like, he'll say what he thinks, and because he believed that's the best way of communicating, he didn't take it the wrong way. Like, they stayed good buddies. Like, when was it when they did the video for Bwipo's exit from Fnatic? At the end, there's like self-made in the background, and you're like, okay, so they're cool. Like, even though Bwipo is like, get the fuck out, or something has to happen. You're like, yeah, I get it, because that's just
Dude,
how
this might be an
self-made is.
unpopular opinion. I just didn't like that guy. I never liked that guy. His personality is like, God, I would never. I'm not saying talks or anything like that. That
Mm,
kind of personality, I could see why that shit wouldn't jive with people. You have to be a very peculiar person for that to work. And keep in mind, you can have his personality, but it's just his specific type. Like the fact that when you hear about it, it's like, hey, the players requested. They all said to Dardo,
mm,
I don't want to play with this guy. 4 people went, okay,
mm,
if one person does it, that's whatever.
yeah.
All 4 people went, I don't like this guy. Can he leave? They're like, now we're
Mhm.
keeping him. What is that? What
that's the
is
thing
that?
is like, and it sort of reflected in his way of playing because it was really centered around. It was like really like a carry
Right.
play style. So he wouldn't be in a role where he would more like assist his lanes. It was like lanes have to play for me, and he was lucky that he had Reckless and Nemesis as well, which are Reckless especially, like he's more of like a support type ADC. Like it's only like in the later stages where he finally understood how to play with Hylissang, and they were, absolute demons, especially at Worlds. And then it's like, you know what? It's going real well with Hylissang. I guess I'll go to G2 instead. I was I could not make any sense of it, especially had the massive contract on the table. I'm gonna go to G2. And it was like, what? You can't beat them, join them? Like that is not the guy that you've tried to show. It's always been like hard work and everything and bettering yourself. And it's like, oh, look, you're being now when Hylissang goes forward, you're right behind him and you're flashing forward and over, obstacles, and you're 2v2ing Asian bot lanes. It's like, it took like 3 years roughly, but finally they know how to play together. And I was like, I can't wait for next year. Reckless has joined G2. I was like, well, I'll go screw myself. And, luckily Upset wanted to play with Hylissang after that. So we got to see potentially, and Upset was that aggressive ADC at the time. So, he meshed super well with Hylissang as well. So we really got lucky because that was like end of off-season decision. Like there's only two ADCs left on the market. It was Upset and Crown Shot. And it was,
I remember, yeah.
It's like Upset was like, well, no, we're going to go with Upset because Upset wants to play with Hylissang and Hylissang wants to play with Upset because they're on that same aggressive mindset. And they were winning all the 2v2 bot lanes. So it sort of worked out well. But, if we're just going to speak, a little bit about, sort of Reckless's career within Fnatic, for me, it always felt weird to sort of have him back after 2021. I felt like, sometimes you just have to draw the line and say, listen, we've had amazing years. We've gotten trophies. We've been to world finals and everything. That was great. Let the good times behind, and let's not tarnish the reputation or whatsoever. And then that's why I never really understood when they took him back from 2023, which obviously was because they couldn't get the ADCs that they wanted. So he was like the seventh choice because they decided for some weird reason to lock in their support without consulting with ADCs
You
to say,
guys don't remember
what do you want to do? Is like
that Rux situation. Yeah, if people don't remember, so let's wind it back a little bit for people who don't remember. So Rux came in when they had the situation at the World's 2020 play-in stage when they were doing that, like I think in Mexico or something like that. And this was back off the heels of like Hylissang kind of having like a lot of issues with like play style and everything. And for some reason, because they beat an Australian team and EG when they had Kaori instead of Danny, when that situation happened, Fnatic went, you know what? You did really good in Jesus, crazy. 2 BO1s in World's playing stage. Not the main group stage that you guys remember. No, not that one. 2 group stage games. That meant they already basically pseudo announced that Hylissang was not going to be on the roster the next year, right? Then what you kind of find out, Reckless was the very last choice. They wanted Carzzy, they wanted Unforgiven, Upset declined to play with Rux. So you know what's crazy? How you figured this out with like league teams. Have you ever noticed this, dude? Whenever it's the player that's the last choice, that never ends out good. I've never in my mind seen a team when I'm watching them play where that player shouldn't be there and what the org has been doing. Like, guys, Reckless wasn't supposed to be there. They had like 3 other choices that they could have went with, and all of them turned it down. Their backups turned it down. Guys, Unforgiven turned them down. That's saying something. That guy was a hoot actually when you saw him play. So you kind of know it wasn't going to work because he also knew it. I think he knew it too. It's like, I'm kind of like the last pick here.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck. And then he played with Rux. Then he played with Advi.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Holy mother of God. Oh, God.
that was probably one of the biggest like recent question marks. It's
Mhm.
just, I mean, for me, it just didn't make sense to have him back, and then for me, it really made me sad because it was like, yeah, you sort of what would have been like a great story between the player and the org, especially with everything that has been accomplished and the MVPs and everything. It's like it really sucked the way it ended. It's like, is that really how the storyline between Reckless and Fnatic, where he just gets like dumped in the middle of a season and then he's bouncing from one org to another and he's streaming and everything? It's like, ah, it's you know, for me, like, uh, obviously now that we know how things happen, I would have even like went back to 2018. Like I said, it's like it would have been a good time to just cut it with Reckless and try to go for a player like Upset, because Upset, in his rookie year
Yeah.
already goes to a summer, well, already goes to an LEC final, and then is like, well, okay, this guy looks promising, and he has a lot of the
Mhm.
mechanics, and who are we adding our bets on? Are we going to keep Reckless, who again had that sort of weird moment in the summer split, or do we go for Caps, who definitely is the generational player, and it's like, well, you really could have seen, like, no, within 2 seasons. I mean, there's a reason why on his first season, Caps was being called Baby Faker. Like within his first game, and that quick
Yeah.
shot was
Yeah.
saying it within the first game. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, that's the game, that's the name they give him. And they were
Mhm.
like, Baby Faker, how dare you, and everything. It's like, no, he is that insane. Like, he was playing Kane Assassin in the mid lane. You have to tell me who's playing like so like unhinged picks in the history of the LEC in the mid lane, where you're like, oh, how does it even work? It's like, no, the champion was supposed to be in the jungle, maybe in the top lane, and even then, it's like now in the mid lane, where usually you'd have like range or mages who can poke you from a distance. Like, he has to farm melee for him, and I remember it's like against Misfits, I believe, because I remember just killing Hans Sama just
Oh,
on
that Vayne
spawn.
pick. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
literally, he was exiting his base, like where the walls end, and it's like, oh, I'm here in your jungle. It was a horror movie, literally, like coming from the shadows, boom, boom, alt up, you're dead, gray screen. And it's like, okay, this kid's insane. Like, and he was super deep into like the League of Legends lore, so he enjoyed the game beyond than just the game. Like, he enjoyed everything about it. It's like, you have someone who's like obsessed with the game and like beyond the game in itself. um it's just looking like
Do you
pretty
know
straightforward and who you should go with.
do you know what's crazy with the Cap situation is, for some reason, life works this way. Fnatic, guys, I'm not. This is crazy shit when you start really thinking about it. So, you know what, like, because you know this, you've been watching almost as long as I have. In Europe, they've always been trying to find like the next Caps, and
Hmm,
I think
hmm.
the only thing closest to that that's ever happened would be Inspired. If we're gonna go off that, like, you find like a random player on a
Mm,
team that no one really gives a fuck about,
yeah.
comes up and he's just really good. Like, there's been very few players like that. Like maybe Carzy, ADC wise, kind of, maybe you're
Mm,
like skill level, right? You're trying to find like the
yeah.
next diamond in the rough. Like, I don't have to pay that much money for, but he's gonna give me
Yeah.
like this X low return. Very
Hmm,
few players have been that since Caps has debuted. Then Fnatic go and buy Poby from T1's academy team, probably not paying a lot of money because
hmm.
it's last split of the year, it's summer, and T1 just, all right, who's really gonna want Poby? They get Poby. And what's crazy is, minus a few misplays here and there,
Hmm.
he's not running it down. What's crazy? He's not running it down. He's actually, like, you could argue, say good, right?
He's more
Then
stable than Humanoid at that point in time.
yeah, and
That's
then what's crazy is, okay, let's see how he plays at Worlds. What's crazy is, out of all the problems they had at Worlds, he was good. And the Fnatic go, wait a minute, we took a risk on that guy. It did work out, but now we must get rid. You can't make this shit up. Isn't that what they always wanted? To find another Caps they could build around? You probably didn't pay him that much. How much money did T1? If T1's if T1 went and said, I want 100K for Poby, I would tell you, go fuck yourself. You getting 50K, you take it or leave it. That's it. They probably didn't pay him that much money. He was only playing for like what? He played for what? Max 2 months, maybe, and because that split was like 4 weeks and 3 best of 3s and some shit like that. I just don't get this logic. Why in the world would you get rid of that guy when you just got him? You took a risk on him. It worked for you. It wasn't like you were last place. And then you throw him away for Vladdy had been declining ever since first stand. I just don't get that. That makes no sense unless Poby just didn't agree with people, which makes perfect sense because this happened with Adam too. Remember, after that one split he was on, he just kind of left, unless he just didn't like people there. It's crazy you couldn't retain a player like that. I maybe he doesn't win you a title, I don't know, but just to get rid of someone that fast is crazy. What the hell happened at that boot camp? What the fuck?
Yeah, it's so. Just to go quickly back on the Adam situation is a bit of a one-off because he sort of took a side after the whole like debacle with Upset having to go back, and instead of just keeping it for himself, he sort of turned the fan base against Upset. And obviously, not only is it not a professional behavior, even though he was like 18 at the time, you're like, yeah, can't really keep someone who's going to behave like this, especially if we want to show a specific face for the brand. And obviously, if we're looking to keep Upset, who's been decent for Fnatic, then obviously you have to pick, and there won't be that compatibility. With that said, the Poby Vladdy situation, I think, can be explained in different ways. I don't find it as crazy as other people feel. I was surprised that when it was sort of leaked that Poby could potentially, I was like, I kind of hated it because I really like Poby's personality. Like I got to meet him in Madrid. He's just the best. Like I absolutely love him. I'm super happy that he's doing well with Navi and everything, that he get to.
It's like that meme of the thing where it's he crying and you're happy at the same time.
I was cheering for him on Navi. It's like, if we get our asses kicked by Navi, like it's it's deserved, and I'm happy for Poby. But while Vladdy was sort of declining in level for obvious reasons, because it wasn't going well with his teammates and even within his org, from what we've heard, the coaches weren't really sort of assisting him well. He's been dealing with like personal sort of psychological issues. And it felt like, for me, I was like, it's okay if he comes to Fnatic because we have the performance coach. And one of the big issues that Fnatic has had is not keeping their performance coach from one season to another. So it's like, we start the season without the performance coach who already came in late into the season, and then we repeat that pattern. And when we came in, when they said, oh, well, actually, we're keeping performance coach, his name is Richard, I was like, oh, well, that's actually quite a good surprise. And if we get Vladdy and this guy's already, aware that he's gone through some shit in his previous season, which might have affected his performance, well, that's his job, is to sort of turn him around and say, well, we've seen what he's been able to do during the winter of that previous year. So, there's probably a higher high than Poby, he's not going to lose your games, but he's not necessarily going to be the win condition. He's going to be that stable guy in the mid lane. He's going to manage his lane pretty well. He's going to be decent in team fights, but if you're behind, he's not necessarily the guy who's going to bring you back. He's going to follow you. He'll be a good soldier, but maybe, they were looking for that something more. And for me, it was definitely a bet that they were taking. It's like a bit of a heads of tails, like, we really appreciate Poby. He's been great for us. He's helped us sort of patch the end of the year, which really what it was a rubber band to help us get to the end and at least qualify for Worlds, even though we did fuck all over there. We did it. And then it was like, well, we're going to try to sort of clean this team up, because MiGX definitely didn't want to continue playing with Fnatic. So we want to have people who want to play for the jersey and who want to work hard. And, that wasn't the case of Oskarnen. He wasn't putting in the work. That was well known. It was said by the coaches over and over. Gax got super frustrated to the point that he tweeted about it, and everyone turned against Gax when I said, well, you should be turning against the players. Like, there's a reason why he's that upset. If you know the guy, if you've seen the guy ever since he started working for Fnatic for the academy team in Spain, this guy has given it all. So sure, his wording probably isn't the best. Maybe you don't appreciate him sort of throwing his players under the bus, but it's like, aren't you as frustrated to not get the bloody trophies at some point? So I understood him completely. It's like, yeah, wording could have been better, but God damn it, man. Like, if you're doing your best and they're just like twiddling their thumbs, you're like, yeah, no wonder. So
Yeah, I was gonna add to your point. I think that's only in esports I noticed that, where if someone just calls someone out on their shit, they get angry with that. That's
yeah.
why I never got mad at what Inspired was doing or what he was saying to people, because I don't know if you guys actually work or you just are lazy. I don't know what's wrong with some of you. I had this at my job too. If someone is not pulling their weight or you feel like they're not pulling their weight, that is going to bother you. And this notion you can't call someone out or I have to voice it in this specific way. Like, no, fuck that. You are not doing your job. Get your shit together. Apparently, people love the way Michael Jordan was as a player competitor, right? Well, yeah, Michael Jordan wasn't a nice person to be around when they were trying to win. Same thing with Kobe Bryant with basketball. I imagine Tom Brady was pretty insufferable when they're winning every single Super Bowl. I'd imagine he was. I imagine he wasn't just like, hey, guys, let's just go to the bar and drink and butt fuck each other. No, that wasn't how that works. This notion that you can't call anyone out because I have to voice it in this way, that's so stupid. I'll use an example for League for this. Do you guys think Faker likes it when T1 loses to Gen G? No, he clearly probably doesn't. This notion that you have to be nice to everybody and you have to just play Kuma. No, that's too. This is why League esport players can't, like, in my opinion, get a little bit more better, because everyone has to treat them with kid gloves. Gax, I agree with him. In that last video they uploaded like a few weeks ago, he's saying, why would he not say that? And keep on, guys, people's jobs are on the line here. You do badly as a coach, you get all the blame initially first, even though people may not, even though years later people may say you did a good job. Coaches get the blame first. So I don't know what else a person is allowed to do. Just sit there and just let you just lose everything. No, that's not acceptable. And the fact that any of you think that's acceptable goes to show you why you're broke, living at home with your mom, and why other people are not doing that. Just pointing out this mindset, you can't be mean to people, is ridiculous. Even though Korea just proves the opposite all the time. Korea always proves that. Like, people got mad at CB Max for being a little mean to people. Then they just reverse sweep Team 1. People got mad at Inspired for yelling at Masu and Quad. And yeah, didn't Lion just, it was crazy. Inspired's toxic and mean, but his team just diddied FlyQuest this past week ago. Diddied them. They had 20K gold leads. So I'm not always saying that you have to be that personality, but the fact that we can't have that personality, no, that's just too much. I don't want that. How's that working out for FlyQuest right now, where they just got diddied by their former jungler who was apparently a little too mean? Oh, we can't be mean. We can't call out people because that hurts their feelings. That's not even how real life ever has gone. Ever. That's not even how regular jobs function. Dude, at your job, when someone's not pulling their weight, that angers you, I imagine. It kind of...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Why can't we have that in esports? Oh, no, we got to tell them nicely. No, fuck you. Go to hell. What the hell? Fuck that.
Especially those are the conversations that are happening behind closed doors, but people don't realize this, because when the videos are made, when they're trying to sort of peel back the curtain, there's a lot of editing of saying, well, we're going to show you the stuff where the team, having a good time. And that's what I enjoyed with the sort of reformatting of the content that Fnatic has done. You mentioned at the beginning that, they've sort of missed the target and just completely forgotten about the things that they've engaged themselves in delivering to the fans. And I feel like they're sort of, patching that now by saying, okay, well, we recognize we fucked up. We're not saying it, but with the type of content we're showing, where we're showing the conversations that players are having, we literally have upset, having a go at Vladdy when Vladdy's saying, well, I'm not losing. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You are getting slopped about in your lane. You're like, yes, give me this. Give me this. I want to see it, because I know Upset is probably one of the most passionate players out there, not just in Fnatic, but probably across the scene. It's like, yeah, we need guys like this, because he's like, he sees, and he's testified in an interview that he's aware of all the shit memes that are about him. And ever since, he's had that issue with with his wife at the time, who was getting some form of sexual assault that forced like at the time, it frustrated me to no point, because people weren't realizing that the year that it happened, where Upset had to go back home, this was the first time Upset was going to Worlds. And talking about a guy who's so competitive, you'd have to know that there's a situation that is so bad where he decides, I am not going to participate in Worlds in my first time doing it, not knowing if I'm going to be able to do it the next year, because you don't know what's going to happen
Yeah,
from
that's
one
how
season
League
to
is. You
another.
don't know what's going to happen the next year. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like,
Yeah.
this is it. Finally, he's competed. He's worked so hard all his life, and he finally gets there. And it's like, I have to leave. He's on the other side of the world as well. It's not like, oh, he's just, he's next door. His wife's in Berlin and he's competing in Poland. So, it's just a quick plane. It's like, no, he has to go through, different time zones to get back home and say, well, I can't even, sort of solve the situation that's happening with my wife. And then I'll just fly back. It's like, no, you go out, because there's no time for you to come back and whatsoever. So we have to adapt the situation. So he's abandoning his dream to finally participate in Worlds. He's abandoning his team, which he's worked with the entire year to try to be successful. And people are like, oh, it's fake. It's like, get your head out of your arse. And so you can see him there, where he's really challenging everyone. As you mentioned, there's Gax as well, who's like, if you're not going to put the work, you have fuck all to do in this team. It's like, yes, that's the conversations you have to have at the beginning of the season. You can't say, well, it's a new page. We're finally getting rookies. They have to adapt. They have to, like, no, listen, you're new.
Yeah.
No, no one cannot be replaced. Even if you're just starting, listen, we'll recognize we've made the wrong decisions. Some of them are on 1-year contract, others on 2 years contract. Fnatic's been very careful with with managing their contracts, at least this year for once. So there is a turning of the page. So that's the thing, is the split completely sucked. I was like empty. Like, usually I'm really frustrated. I get even angry sometimes. I was like, I've got nothing to give anymore. Like, there's no more energy within me, and it fucks me over, because I do my podcast on the side, so I have to review the videos, I have to do the content, I have to edit my videos
I
and
know
everything.
yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I want to do it because I'm passionate about it. It's like, I can't find the energy where I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to get a video, to see what people think about it, to give something to the community as well, because I've been very lucky to go to different events, to talk to people, to even participate in some like communities. Like, that's something Fnatic has developed this year with the Fnatic Fan Association, where they're having like actual groups of fans that are being recognized. I was like, that's great, but the timing kind of sucks, because it's not looking good, and not just on League of Legends. Like, across many titles, we're
Oh
really
yeah,
missing
dude.
the
You
mark
know what
as
ended up
well. So,
happening? If you guys remember what ended up happening just in this past few weeks, not only did they bomb out of the LEC 2026 versus playoffs, Valorant, they bombed out of that too. And then apparently now they bombed out of CS. Like, what? It just feels like it's all crumbling right at this point of the year. But I do want
yeah.
to make sure I point out to something that you talked about, which is this thing that has happened with a lot of these splits. People keep, I hate this line of thinking. I vehemently disagree with this line of thinking. Not yours, but this line of thinking that these splits don't matter. Do you know who kind of uses that mindset every year? Vitality. SK. Bad orgs historically who just kind of sucked ass. The splits inherently don't matter, because you should use them to figure out what players work, what we really want to build for the year. Like last year when people said, "Oh, Vitality kind of got it together," it's too late. You can't get it together at that last minute and think that's like that kid who cheats on a test last minute and thinks he's gonna pass. You should use every split to your advantage. This notion that things don't matter. Okay, if we're gonna use this line of thinking that things don't matter, how about you get the fuck out and we just quit everything we're doing? How about we just stop playing League? How about we just stop watching it because things don't matter? Obviously, that would never happen because there's legal complications to that. But just in just the thinking of the mindset here, guys, if things don't matter, just leave then. I just hate that mindset from a competitor, or if any fan thinks that. If things don't matter, like you claim they don't, why are you watching then? So if things don't matter, why were people angry that Los Ratones is not in the LEC anymore? I heard things don't matter. Oh, they do matter. It's this one of the dumbest things fans say these days. It just bother. I don't get bothered by a lot. It takes a lot to bother me. But when that happens, guys, okay. So if things don't matter, why was K-Roll in borderline tears when your team caused them to not make
I
playoffs?
know. I felt super bad about this
But
because
apparently
especially
these
like
things don't matter, guys.
eh,
Nothing matters. Like, what the
because
fuck?
especially like Cadro was a former streamer for Fnatic as well,
That is
so there's
true.
a bit of
Oh,
relationship as well there. So it
no.
felt like a letdown, and for me, it would have been even better because I felt like Los Ratones, deserved that spot. Like they worked hard to turn it around, and just to give a big middle finger to everyone that was just like being so like I wouldn't say even mean, it's like vicious to them. It's
Mhm.
like, listen, they are coming in. They don't that, for me it was so funny when they were first announced that there was going to be this expansion, to ERL teams. I was like, yeah, that has to be the future of the league scene, because what happens when there's those international tournament, there's only a select few, and the other teams are just like, they're having their cocktail, they're chilling, and then they come back, and then it's the same team that are at the top. So you have to offer something where the ERL teams are facing the LEC teams and confronting them, and give an occasion for these players to stay competitive throughout the year and still sort of work it out. And that's what they've done with Valorant. They've well there's going to be Santiago, which is going to be the first international tournament. They did a sort of mini tournament where they have the tier 2 teams facing the tier 1 teams who didn't qualify, and there's been that small tournament. And what we've seen the tier 2 teams beating some tier 1 teams, and it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. That maybe, makes them ask a lot of questions in terms of like, oh shit, it makes sense that maybe we don't beat some of the really good teams in T1, but we're not beating the T2 team. What the hell's going on with us? And they keep practicing and improving themselves, and maybe they find out something, and when they go into the next split, well, maybe they're a bit more competitive. We'll have to see. It's a trial season, so I was excited for this. And the other thing was like, well, you shouldn't be really concerned, if they come in, because he's coming in for one split, so he can only contribute because he's coming with a lot of popularity with his stream, with the players that he has in, who are also very popular. Most of them have, been denied positions in teams in the LEC. And it was like, well, if you're a team, you should be happy to accept more competition, probably more eyes onto the product, but you shouldn't be concerned that he's gonna take your spot. Like, if you're a good team, you're competitive, well, you're gonna beat them, right? You're gonna beat them. Surely you paid your spot in the LEC, so surely you're making the efforts. And that's what I like. That's like, it's sort of unveiling the dirt under the carpet here. It's like, oh well, some of the LEC teams are getting spanked, can't control their gold advantage against the team that everybody should have taken points against. And it's like, yeah, that's the situation. And that's why we have to confront these sort of bottom of the table team, like against these ERL teams, to sort of say, hey, that's the level. And this is the spotlight that we can put on some younger players who definitely should have a spot in the LEC. And I'll ask a lot of questions as well within the organization to say, what the hell, So for me, it made a lot of sense. And that's why I was like, it would have been even, it would have been such a great signature at the end of that regular season, regular split, to say, well, they got their spot in the playoffs. So everybody shut the fuck up. Look what's happening inside, instead of saying, oh, Riot's not doing things well. Riot doesn't know how to communicate, that's for sure. But what they're doing makes sense. And that is definitely the future of the league. So when Fnatic players got flamed to say, "Oh, why are they sucking off Los Ratones? Why are they saying that Los Ratones should have had?" Yeah, because they're lucid. They know that they're playing like shit, and they would rather see a team that has shown improvement rather than a team that was looking good in week 2 and then just completely crumbled with no one understanding why it was happening. Because, as you mentioned, to say that the split doesn't matter, that's rubbish. To say that you don't expect to win the first split for a team that has rookies, that at least makes sense. You have to show some improvement through the year. And for me, that was the big objective. I made an episode about this. I was like, I don't expect them to sort of crush everyone when they come in, especially with 3 teams who have kept their 5 men. So there's going to be some adaptation, there's going to be some growing pains, but if we see that they're playing better together, that they're actually being, there's some cohesion, they're playing the objectives well, they're closing the games properly, it's not a constant back and forth circus, then I will be satisfied. And, if they don't lift the trophy, but at least they're like, well, they're doing their best and it looks good for the future. I mean, you know, that split for me, the conditions have been filled in general. We've gone backwards. It was looking good from week 1 to week 2, and week 2 I was like, oh, there's a lot of progression. Like there's so much improvement on the stuff that was lacking on the first week. I am super excited going forward. Week 3, well, okay, it's a bit difficult. There were some bigger positions, but there were some teams that we should have won against, and we got completely smashed. Week 4, nothing. Playoffs comes in, am I even watching a professional team, or is it just my clash game on the weekends? And that's where the frustration lies. It's like it's
You know
not
what
all well.
triggers me
Those are bad
constantly?
players.
You know what triggers me constantly is he just does this draft for some reason. And I know it's not all him. I know it's all worked with every player's
Sure.
input. Why do they always constantly pick Ezreal into 2 tanks? I've seen that constantly. Like if I had to break down how that wouldn't work, pretty sure you understand that doesn't work either. Like, are we watching fucking Bronze 5 League of Legends here? Like, I want people to understand. Look, just here, this is not the game itself. This is just an image of what their draft looked like in their final game against Vitality. Keep in mind, this is a must-win game to keep your season alive here. Ezreal, people have said, well, Aatrox is not a tank, dude. I know that. But Aatrox will become insanely tanky with how his build works now currently when he's a jungler. And, well, Cassante is just League of Legends for the last 2 years at this point. He is a mega tank. And Ryze himself can be, not say pseudo tanky, but, the amount of shields and heals you're going to get. Ezreal can't go through all of this. It's just not possible. This is what they did this last year at Worlds. They did this a few times. I just don't get this line of thinking. Like, why is Ezreal the pick here if this is the draft you're going to end up coming off with? Like, this is the draft you're going to get against Vitality. Why is Ezreal the pick here? Like, there's Aphelios, Jinx, hell, Xayah would be a little bit more better in this situation. I just don't get the mindset with how some of these like drafts work here. Like you pick Zaheen, what different? I can't get the new champion's name is Zaheen or something like that.
Yeah.
You pick him against Ryze and like Aatrox. Like I don't know. Like some of the drafts have been very suspect. Holy crap!
Yeah, it's not only like some of the drafts. There's a lot of question marks, but even when the drafts look good, it didn't feel like this team understood their win condition, when to scale, what lanes to prioritize, and everything. I mean, there's a reason why Fnatic hasn't had like almost any first drakes or even like a scuttle on the first clear. Like
I've seen
for
those.
me,
Oh yeah.
for me, like it's like, oh, why is Razork not doing anything? He's constantly behind when all he does is cycle clearing his jungle. And for a jungler who historically is always super proactive, he's always trying to get a lane ahead. Like, obviously it was a lot on the bot lane because at the time in the previous teams, Upset was the one who's communicating the most and being the most elaborate about his lane state. And that's why Oscarin wasn't getting any lanes because this guy's he's not saying anything or he's not saying anything purposeful where Razor's going to say, oh, I'm going to go top lane. So obviously that's what made Fnatic very easy to read because it all went through bot lane because Upset was like, well, on my 4th wave, on the 3rd creep, we're going to be able to push. So you can come on that timing because I'll have this item and we'll have that enough damage and I'll be that level. Like this guy has it down to a science. So obviously you're going to listen to him because he knows what he's talking about. But here, the problem is that you're not getting the priorities. You're not helping lanes with players who like to be helped and who like to take over the game. Like that's the thing. It almost feels like he has too much choice because Vladdy is someone who likes to get help from his mid laner, from his jungler, like Caps. And Pyros is a guy who plays very aggressively, who likes to play carry picks, and therefore likes to have the attention of his jungler. Upset has always been the guy to get the most focus when he's been on Fnatic. Again, for the reasons that I said. So that's the thing is like they have to make a choice to say, okay, those are going to be the lanes that we're going to focus, and this is how we're going to conduct the clear and the push and everything. I'm like, these are smart players. Like, even if people say, oh, Imperius has nothing to do there, Lospa has nothing to do there, they can't look good if no one is playing together or there's no synergy. I can tell you, if these guys were all connected, they'll all look much better, and the narrative would be completely different. It's not just, Fnatic is like, oh well, we're gonna extend the off season and pick these people at the last moment, for financial purposes. That definitely came into the conversation, but there was at least some logic that we were looking for players who are hardworking, who are very communicative, which was different from the previous iteration, and who don't hesitate to say when things go wrong and to have those conversations, as we've seen in the videos. So it's like, okay, that's a step in the right direction. Empiros looks like a really cool guy as well. Like a guy who really wants to work hard. When he was with Gentlemates last year, he was one of the most improved players as well. So it's like, okay, this guy, he's going upward, so that's cool. We're catching him at the right time. Lospa, even though he's Korean, speaks English super clearly, so there's no issues there. He was rookie of the season in the Spanish league, so again, he's not some random guy. He's a guy who already has those accolades. So okay, and he's willing to learn, and that's great because he's playing with Upset, and Upset is a teacher. Like he's a bit like Buepo. He tells it as it is. Like, this is how it's going to work. This is how I like to manage my lane. Those are how I like to manage my 2v2s with this combination of champions. So it's like, get those pieces together, makes sense. Bloody wanted to play with Razork apparently, and Razork looked to really show a different profile than he did when he was playing with Humanoid, where clearly there was no synergy. And you're like, oh, week 2, it looks like we're getting there. And then we've gone backwards. It's like, how is that even possible? Like, we're even worse than the first week. Like, the first week wasn't great, but they were working together. And then it's just, either it's a problem with the meta, either it's the problem with a way how they're working together, either it's a problem on what they're managing in terms of lanes. Like, are they having problems with the matchups because the drafts are bad? But the problem
We can bring up
is,
the G2 game for that.
yeah, well, I mean, the G2
Dude,
game when they work in the tri brush, and it's like, for me,
because
like,
they
one of
saw the
my biggest
ball.
gripes is like, I feel like they don't
Yeah.
press tab and they don't know who they're playing against. Like, sometimes, like, do you understand the champions that you're playing against? Like, that they also press buttons on the other side and
They
they
do?
will
I
go
don't know
against
about
your
that.
aggression. I swear to God, like, I try my best to really not be toxic and everything, because there's too many people being like that online, to the point where Fnatic has to post something about it, which
Mhm,
that really happens to that level. And it's good that they have their players back. Well, that's super important as well, especially when you have a
mhm.
player like Bloody, who's and Upset as well, who are very susceptible to what's
Yeah.
happening online. But at the same time, it's like, guys, what are the conversations that are going on? Like, you guys are known to speak a lot between yourselves. Are you not, like, alerting yourself, like, oh, if we do this, this is gonna happen because we're bunching up for a big AoE spell. Let's be careful, maybe. And they just tunnel vision down, and it feels a lot like they have to throw Hail Marys when it's like,
Mhm,
you can just stabilize the game and play
mhm,
for side lanes instead of going absolutely crazy. And for me, it's the conversations I'm seeing is like, oh, there has to be changes about this for us. I'm like, problem is, you can't do changes at that moment in the year because you'll be confessing a massive weakness. It's like, yeah, the players that we've taken, we've made a mistake. And it's like,
mhm.
well, that means you're not believing in your own capabilities of improving this 5-man. And then you hear from Grabs that he was more or less promised more staff. Obviously, with Duffman leaving, he wasn't replaced. And I was like, what my thought was towards this is like, maybe they're not willing to invest straight away because they know that the first split is going to be a split to build on. So they're sort of keeping
Makes
some
sense.
money aside
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
from the second split, like they did last year. Like Duffman wasn't there from the beginning of the year. Duffman came a bit later into the split, as the performance coach did. But here is like, well, at least we have the performance coach, so we'll give it a bit more time to have like another assistant on the side who might be a positional coach or something like this. Like I was hoping maybe Otto Wamne came into Fnatic because he was working with Los Ratones. So, and he's, in my opinion, a very, very smart player who knows how to speak to players. And I was like, okay, maybe we come in and we're like, we're just gonna sort of tempo this first play, and then we'll come in with an extra assistant coach. And when Grab said no, that was kind of promised to have that extra coach in the entrance. It's not even a subject of, oh, we don't have enough staff. Sure, but the thing is, if you've sort of committed yourself to say, I'm going to bring you what you're looking for, and then you're not going to bring it, there's going to be tons of interpretation by the community, and I can't fault them, because it's like, oh well, is it a budget problem? Is it we didn't find the right person? Is it that we don't commit to our promises? Or is it Grabs maybe saying it was a promise, but that maybe how it wasn't worded? We don't know. And the main problem why we don't know is because the higher ups at Fnatic don't communicate, and they don't communicate enough, especially in the competitive state in which is Fnatic across most of their titles. I'm not going to talk about Valorant, because Valorant, they're still getting titles every year. Like they usually always fuck up at the beginning of the year because they're always trying to find their style, and
Yeah, weren't they
especially in
the
the last
finals
year.
last year against NRG?
Well, I
Last
mean, they
year?
went all the finals of what's considered as the worlds of Valorant,
Yeah, yeah.
and they almost reverse swept as well. Like I was there, it was absolutely insane. But the thing is like, the way they approach their roster makes a lot of sense. Like they find these rookies. Like last year, they replaced Durkee, and Durkee is, I wouldn't say he'd be like the caps of 2018, but he was like a big player for Fnatic. They went and got a rookie, and they were like, well, we're not too sure if he's going to be able to fill in those shoes. He's probably the best in his role at the end of the year. It's like everybody was like, oh, this guy's absolutely insane. Like you almost, as you get the new girlfriend, you completely forget about it. It's like, who was that? I can't remember. This one is way sexier. And then the same year thing happened between the previous season and this year. They lost what was considered probably like one of the best players in the world, especially at his role. They go get a guy who did only a one split in the T1, and a team that wasn't doing really well. So people were saying, all these big names, oh, it's Fnatic, they have to attract all these big names, especially in Valorant. They made the final, so they're super attractive, and everyone wants to play for Fnatic. And they have Boaster, who's really like the face of the brand, and he's amazing to play with, and he's always able to, make those talents grow and reach their peak performances. And they went and got that guy, and I was like, that's even a bigger gap, because this guy was such a massive player for Fnatic, and now we have this new guy, and he's even faster in being great. Like already within the first split, he's like already one of the best players of the team, and he's in the same mindset. He's got the same vibe at the team where he's shit talking the enemy team and everything. And he has this. He's French, so he has that sort of flair as well, where he's just like completely mugging off everyone. I love him. I love it. It's just absolutely incredible. And that's the thing. It's like it's okay to there's been a lot of second positions last year, but it's like they have a process that's clear when finding new talent, and they stay competitive. They might have not qualified there, even though they had two big chances to qualify in that special format that Riot had. And it's a bit frustrating because you're so close, but that this team, starts getting their groove throughout the year, and then eventually they go to the international tournament. They win at least a domestic title, so they keep the trophy up at least during the year. And they've had already within the franchise period some historical runs as well, and some historical matches. So it's fine for them to not qualify. Like, it sucks because it falls under the umbrella that League Team sucks, Valorant didn't qualify, but there's an asterisk because they're still quite impressive. And Counter-Strike hasn't been as great as it used to be before. They're the same. There are roller coasters. Like, they have like runs where it's like, oh, they're finally connecting, and then they'll lose to some random 5-man from the north of Russia, and like, well, how are we losing to them? It's like, and the change, and we're losing great, because they're able also to find great players, but they don't stay because there's the bigger team that are like, yeah, I can't be staying here. Like, they're in the tier 2 muddy waters and they don't feel like they're getting out. So I'm gonna go with bigger salary and a bigger team, which makes complete sense. So you're not able to retain that talent, and at the same time you're sort of going back and forth between the tier 2s levels. So at the beginning of the season, like, if you're a Fnatic fan that watches all the game like I do, you're like, where do I turn to find a little bit of joy, to have some relief at some point? And that just piles onto it, because it's like, yeah, the league team sucks, but they're rookies, and there's clearly some issues. But the thing is, I'm 100% sure that if Sam or Karn, who are the two big guys at the top, would communicate either at the beginning of the season to see, okay, this is our new team, these are going to be our objectives throughout the year. And if they don't meet those objectives, it's clear for the fans to know exactly where they're setting themselves up for. It's like, well, okay, so you failed here, and this is what you said. So we have a reason to be frustrated because you haven't reached what you said. But here it's unclear, and there's stuff coming out from the woodwork. Oh, well, he didn't get the coach, and this was another issue, and this and this. And then obviously, when there's not a major voice to say, okay, guys, let's calm down. Yes, we suck. Yes, we're not reaching the objectives. Here's our commitments. That's the problem. And I'm almost certain that Sam Matthews, especially when he did this sort of subscription format with Fnatic, the Fnatic Plus and everything, that he sort of committed to say, I'm gonna do those format which are town halls with the Discord server, to say, well, I'm gonna speak to those people who are gonna have sort of a preview of that conversation, and then that obviously that conversation is going to be recorded and it'll be put to the general public later on YouTube. So they get a little exclusive before, but everyone gets that communication. That's not happening. And we need to know what's happening, because we don't have any general manager on League of Legends anymore. Dardo has been excluded, which, I guess most of the people are very happy with. Sure. Who's there instead? And it's like, oh, well, there's a performance team. Like, there's a weird
I thought he
unknown
was team
cabal,
direct. I thought he was moved to a different position. Like, he's not.
He's moved to a different position. He's not general manager anymore. From
right.
what he, so I got to meet him in Madrid.
La Formula. You got to meet.
La
You got to meet the La Formula.
And he's more on like the sort of accountant side of, like, he manages the budgets for different titles. So he works with the different titles, but he's not on camera anymore, and he doesn't have that power that people still give to him, that, oh, he's influencing the team. No, he's just saying, this is the money that we have, and depending on our objectives, this will be allocated to each segment, and that's it. That he's been completely removed from his role where he had way more influence from who was getting there and there. He's more on the administrative side of things. So, at least that's one thing. But you have to put another person. And Karn, he's the CGO, so he's like across all titles. So we need someone who's dedicated to the League of Legends segment. And it's like, oh, well, for the performance, there's this performance team, like this unknown cabal of people. Like the way, when they talk about it, it's like, I see people in hoodies around the round table, and I'm like, yes, well, what will the Ouija board tell us to take this time? It's like, we need, like, show us those people, do a video. Hey, this is the people who are behind it.
I'm not gonna lie.
That would be cool. We'd like to know.
That's a fire ass idea for a team to do a video on, and that's pretty. And let's be honest here, that's probably how SK Gaming built their rosters. Just SK taking straight. That's pretty much, I would imagine, how SK built the rosters. Ouija board. Let us pick most random.
And that's probably how they have Faker from the get-go. Like, to have this that caliber of a player, to have that longevity across. Like, they must have sacrificed someone, like, or maybe that's what they get from all the trucks, they're receiving. Like, there's something going on.
Because that would be the only reason that SK Gaming would pick up Skeens. Guys, no, you will never convince me a roster that has Skeens on it is going to win the LEC. Sorry, not going to happen there. Just, Sorry.
or even going with Mickey's plan of like, oh, I'm gonna bring my friends over. It's like, Wunder, I can somewhat understand. Like he's a
He did
stable
bounce
top
back.
laner,
I
but
will give Wonder that. He did bounce back because my problem with Wonder after, like, basically after 2020, he was really good for those for when he started. But ever since like 2021 till 2024 or whatever year he was on Heretics, he would just kind of sit in top lane and just do nothing.
Mhm.
Like he was a player, I would watch him. Like he had the Gragas outplays on Fnatic where they would tower dive him, minus the tower dives and outplays on Gragas. He would literally just kind of do nothing. So when SK Gaming are like, we're gonna have Mickey X and Wonder, I'm like, I don't know about Wonder, man. He's been kind of just like blatantly just kind of standing there and doing nothing. He actually did play good. He actually
Yeah.
did bounce back hard. And it's
He
like,
he taught some of those younger top laners how it was done back in his day. I was like, but that's the thing, just to go back to Fnatic, it's that lack of communication towards the players, especially when you have more and more, like I would say, grassroots organizations like KC, who have a clear face, who's on the stream and who's communicating directly with them and everything. um it's okay to not communicate or to have that much communication when you're winning, because the trophies are doing the communication for you. It's like, oh, everything's going well. Even when I always take the example of like when Ocelote was having those bad people he was getting to party with, and people were like, well, it doesn't matter because he's winning trophies, so surely he's doing things right. Like, he can be with people who are trafficking, women. It's fine. Like, trophies, man, the trophies. Like, look at the shiny trophies, man. Who cares? And then it's like that's the mindset people are in. So if you're not bringing in the trophies and you're not saying anything to the fans, well, the narrative is going to come for the fans. So people are saying, "Oh, there's no money within Fnatic, and they don't know what they're doing," blah blah. When you know, obviously, Fnatic must have some financial complications because it's an organization that's over 20 years old. When you're over 20 years old, first of all, you're one of the rare esports organizations that are over 20 years old. Like, there's like maybe there's not even 10 of them right now that exist that are competing in like T1 titles, like the
and
League of Legends, the
TSM,
Valorant, the Counter Strikes, and who still have a roster that seemingly is still trying to do something. And that means there's a lot of cash that's been injected, and which means investors who are like, hey, Sam, time's up. We need a bit of cash back. So Sam is like, yeah, I need to find a way to bring in the money and not lose all the investment, or else I'm putting the key under the carpet there. And that's not what I want to happen, because even though people are going to say, well, he's completely clueless, I can tell you he is well passionate for his organization, because if people know the creation of Fnatic, it is also a grassroots organization. He sold his car to get his first Counter-Strike team, so to pay them. That's how it started. But that's the thing. Like, I've got like my big gripes really is that there's the lack of communication, and there's the lack of pride in its own history. Is that you have been one of the greatest organizations across many titles. You have a massive trophy case. Be proud, even though it's not what's happening right now, and you're kind of in the slump. Make the fans remember why they've been fans, and make them proud again. Like, one of the things that I always say is like, there's this big conversation about, Fnatic never won Worlds. It was the first Worlds. It was Freaks Basement. I would say, fuck you guys. We won Worlds. We're on the videos along the other teams that have won Worlds.
I mean,
we're on the trophy.
TSM can't say they exist anymore. That's
exactly, and that's the thing. It's like
at that World. Who forget?
Riot recognizes us as a Worlds winner. Put a fucking star on your jersey, on just above the logo, and say, "Oh, you're rating. We don't deserve." I don't care. That is our history, and we're going to represent it. Other teams like T1's putting stars on their jersey. We're going to put a star in their jersey, and we are. Guess what? We're the only European team to win World, and it's probably going to be the case for many, many years, because 2018 and 2019 for Europe isn't happening for a long time. So that's just going to be the story. So yeah, it was a long time ago, but still, it is part of a story. And every time you look at the jersey, you get to remember it. And they're not doing it. And I'm pretty sure it's because, Sam is a little bit shy about it. It's like, oh yeah, it's cool, we won, and that's great, but it was so long time ago. So what? So what? Like, it was like Fnatic turned 20 not too long ago. It was like 2 years ago, 2024,
Oh
right?
yeah.
What did we really get in terms of celebrating 20 years of Fnatic legacy?
Because like some years ago, Fnatic had some really good sponsorships with like Hello Kitty. They had the Hello Kitty
They
jersey.
had the Hello Kitty,
Hello,
they had the
yeah,
champion and everything. Like they had
yeah,
big names which they could have done with for the 20 years, which is really
big.
like a
That's like a
massive.
yeah.
I mean, that for the existence of an esports org that is still competing again in the
Which
big
relies on
esports
sponsorships
titles.
for money. And people forget, for esports, you're relying on people to basically give you money and sponsorships, or you're basically relying on winning, like legit winning to get the prize money. So that's or
Exactly.
you're because people say, what about content creation? As you know from content creation, this doesn't
Mhm.
pay unless you're getting hundreds of thousands of
You
views
need to get
minimum.
really big numbers.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
mean,
mean anything.
otherwise,
Yeah,
and even the
yeah.
merch, like people say, well, I buy the jerseys. Like, surely, that is pennies, mate. That is a drop in the ocean of money that is being
That's the
invested. Like
mindset of the average fan, as you
that's
know.
the thing. It's like, well, I'm buying the jerseys, so I have to be committed on this. It's like, nah, mate. Like, if you really want to look in the accounting books, you will have trauma, dude. Like, you'll be so like, is that what's the point of even? No, you just wear the jersey to support your team, and that's what you should be as a fan. Like unless you want to write a big check for $10 million, if you have them, well, good, awesome, go ahead, mate. But you don't have them, you're just a fan. So you just watch and clap when we're winning and cry when we're losing. But that's all the what you really you can do. But
Oh,
that's the
there's one thing I wanted to go back to that you said about Razorg. So
mm,
Razorg to me has always been like kind of what Hylissang's getting as treatment now. He
mm,
was really good in people's minds for a little bit, and then now he's like, because literally, if you look at how Hylissang's career went, Hylissang,
yeah,
in my opinion, if you look at his career, not to the end of it, but toward the beginning part of it, he would
mm,
go up there with people like Smoothie and Mickey
mm,
X, like best
mm,
Western supports.
yeah,
And Razorg is going through the same similar trajectory. Like when he's really good, people really love
mm,
the guy, but when he's really bad, it's bad. But people forget the one split I do agree that Fnatic should have won was the one where they got 3-0'd by G2, where they really shouldn't have. It was the one with it was the
yeah.
20, that
There's
that
no
one
end.
should have.
I
Yeah,
mean, no,
that
when they were
one.
getting like
Oh,
10K gold advantages and they've like almost like
that
I'm
title.
just getting
I don't even
annoyed
count.
talking about it.
No,
It's
I'll
just
be honest
not
here,
being
man.
able to close the
I
games. It's just
Fnatic should have won that. I don't even know if like you can even
that was the
count
one.
that.
That was the turning point. That was the turning point.
Yeah, because I feel like if they had won that, the conversation around Fnatic not winning would be entirely changed.
Oh,
Because at least,
completely,
yeah,
completely.
that was the title that got away from them. Because it's like, yeah, G2 did win that one, but did they really win that one, or did Fnatic
It's
just
like how did
egregiously?
they win it? Did they win it or did Fnatic lose it? That's it's like the famous Scara saying is like until they lose, they are winning the game, and that was like three
That's
times,
true.
three times
Yeah,
in a row.
yeah.
That's what happened. It's like everything's going well. Wait, we're Fnatic. We can't give you that, fans. You will suffer. And next time you're like, just shoot me now. Like I can't. It's just I don't feel like it's the worst torture. It's like Clockwork Orange, where the guy has his eyes open forcefully. That's the way he's like, no, let me. I have to stop watching. It's like, no, 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 no. You lose by default, and that's the thing. So that's what I was saying. It's like you have to have the head of the organization say, listen, this is exactly what's happening. Yes, we're facing issues, and this is coming from me. Now you know the truth. This is what's actually happening. This is what we're doing to try to resolve it. This is our pipeline when it comes to sponsorships or what type of how do you say staff that we're trying to add. This is how our organization is constituted. This is the team that takes care of the content. So I know you've had a lot of conversations about Pete leaving. That was a big mistake, but this is how we're trying to solve the problem. Instead of us trying to guess like, oh well, Pete's gone, but we know this guy has content creation for Fnatic, so I guess this is the guy who's replacing. But is it in the same shape or form, or is he having a different approach? And can we get to know this guy a bit more? It's like it's all behind closed doors, and it's like, oh well, yeah, you don't necessarily need to know everything. The point is, you kind of have to know when you're dealing with a nord like Fnatic, which has such an international influence and has so many fans backing them up, even after the shit shows that we're seeing right now. It's like people are angry, but they're like, shit, I'm gonna still watch Spring Split and hope that something happens. I'm still gonna get mad, but I'm still gonna be watching every game, and I'm still gonna be, well, fuck it, just eliminate us from playoffs and see you next split. But I'm still gonna be behind because you annoy me so much, but you've made me love this organization, and I just can't separate myself from it because even though I want a trophy, if you're not someone who's just like, oh, I support a team because they get trophies, well, you're still gonna stay with the team. And we're lucky that a lot of fans of Fnatic are not that much like trophy chasers. We're like, yeah, we want a trophy, but that's not the reason why I keep watching. It's like, oh, I hope I get a trophy because I hope I picked the right. Or it's like, fuck it, I picked you guys because there's a reason. And it's like a love hate relationships. Like I'm gonna stay on board, but you make me so mad. Like, oh. But I can't. I don't see myself supporting another team altogether and completely forgetting about you guys. I've committed too much emotions towards you
It's like a
to just
marriage.
go
We're gonna
as
go
a
through the highs and lows. Yeah, that's
yeah.
how it is for all the orgs that esport wise I support. Same with traditional sports too. I've been with
Mhm,
Cloud9 pretty much
mhm,
minus the first year. I've been a fan of G2 ever since it came into the league when they knocked out SK. Gen G, I was there for the Samsung Galaxy period.
mhm,
I'm committed. I tell people this: teams are always going to go through highs and lows, but I do enjoy going through because I do enjoy following
mhm,
what the teams go through. But at some point, I'm not going to not be the fan. It's just like, if you're not winning, then what are you doing then? Because like there's other orgs and other esports that they don't win all the time, but they do create some
mhm.
pretty cool content. You know,
Yeah,
like Fnatic content wise just last year, there was a complete drought of
yeah.
nothing. Like you said before, there's just nothing. And then in the last video, it says we're gonna show you guys what happened at Worlds because everyone's been
Mm,
asking why did it go so bad at Worlds. They just kind of gloss it over. It's like, oh my
yeah,
god! So that confirms in people's minds something really bad must have
yeah,
happened to the point where guys they didn't even bother showing it. Sam just
yeah,
went like that Wizard of Oz movie where the Oz
yeah,
goes, nothing to see here.
yeah.
Everything's
Just
okay. It's like that's not a good look.
just
That's
put a
not a
big
good look.
tarp over it. It's like, yeah, that just never happened. That's exactly, that's what I'm saying. Is like
Mhm.
it's fine to fail when you're a big org and to
It's
say,
gonna happen.
listen,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you cannot be great all the time. And if you are, then well
Good
done.
lord. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like 20 years of existence. It's like, be honest with yourself. We're here anyways. So just tell us, guys, we're kind of struggling right now. It
Mhm.
sucks, but I'm doing everything that so that Fnatic stays Fnatic. So it comes with a lot of sacrifices. It comes with a lot of this, disappointment when it comes to results, or bringing in the right staff, or having the right budget for
Mhm.
the right stuff. And this is what we're doing. Like for me, like the way I would see it is that they would have to do like any big online game does, when at the start of a season they have their developers and say, hey, this is what's going to happen throughout the season. And like Riot does, like, oh well, this season it's Dimasha and we're doing this and there'll be this event and then we're working on this, we're working on that. When you're um we're an esports org of the size of Fnatic and with the legacy of Fnatic, I think you owe this to your fans to say, hey, listen, this is what's happening. We've fallen a bit short from our objectives, both competitively and maybe financially. But this is what we're going to do. Don't worry, Fnatic is not going to die tomorrow, unlike people are saying online, like, oh, it's over for Fnatic. Because there was that one rumor that, oh, Fnatic is looking to sell. It's like, not really. They're just looking at their worth and if people are willing to buy, how much, because that helps them value the company if they're trying
Yeah.
to get investors in to say, well,
Mhm.
this is our value. This is the price to get in, and
Right.
that allows allows Sam to then invest in more stuff and grow the
And this
company,
is
or
what
at least
people
keep it
tend to
stable.
forget when you bring that up is people have to understand when it comes to like just sports too, to tie it into a bigger thing. If you guys can understand this, you need orgs like this one. Like look at what happened with the LCS when the LCS lost like TSM and CLG. You can't just replace that. That's not how esports works. You
Hmm.
can't just like a Fnatic. Hypothetically, it's not going to happen. I'm not saying it is. Let's just say Fnatic did disband. You can't just replace that. That doesn't exist. And keep in mind, you know how hard it is to get fans to be a sport of any of these people? You know how hard it is to get a fan to be a fan, not just of the players in the org, to be a fan of the org itself. Fnatic has this like rare thing like what like Cloud9 and
Mm,
TL and T1 and Gen G, where people are fans of the players, but they're also a fan of the org. In
hmm.
esports, typically, people are mostly just a fan of the players, though.
Absolutely.
Like, so what happened with the 100 Thieves? 100 Thieves is gone. Where do those fans go? Because they were a fan of 100 Thieves, the brand, and the players. You can't just replace this stuff. And the people that think that, this is why, thank God you are not in the room, because we would be dead. The franchise would be fried off, you know? So I could understand why people are frustrated, but like disbanding, like, would you rather them not be here? Because that's not good either. That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all, honestly, if they're not here, you know? Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? People are fucking crazy these days. Just either it's the worst thing ever or it's the best thing ever, and it's like, oh, fucking hell, man.
It's just the frustration that comes to a point. It's like, fuck it, just shoot it all down. You know, like scorch earth approach. It's like, yeah, well, when the fire sort of dwindles down, you're like, oh wait, there's nothing here anymore. What do I do now? I'm an orphan. You know, like that's how it'd be. Like if Fnatic were to disappear, it's like, I think I might be done with esports altogether, because like there's some team that I would say I appreciate watching because I'm an esports enjoyer in general. So even when Fnatic's not playing, like I like to watch the game and say, you know, that I play generally, which would be, you know, League and Valorant mainly. And if Fnatic goes out, like not only, you know, a lot of fans would be orphaned, but people don't understand the impact that it would have on the ecosystem. Because even if Fnatic doesn't have great results, they are a big brand anyways. You know, like they're keeping their head, you know, at least somewhat above the water, that they're still able to continue to bring in players and whatsoever. And it's like, oh well, they're not attractive enough. Well, they're still bringing in some rookies, maybe not what you considered being the most prestigious rookies coming into that promotion, but there's still players saying, well, you know, Fnatic is a big name, and we're looking to, you know, if we're going to do our first step into the T1 stage, well, being with Fnatic, even though they haven't had trophies for quite some time, is still more preferable than maybe another organization that is within the same league. So that's people need to also realize as well. But again, it has to come from the top to be clear about what's happening and to be honest about it. And I think as long as they're not doing that, well, the vitriol and the frustration from the fans is gonna grow, because the only way to patch it up if you're not communicating are trophies. And that's the only thing, because it's like, otherwise, what else do you offer as Fnatic? You know, like what's the identity of the brand today? At the time, it's like, well, Fnatic is the big European org. Like, look at them across all the games. They're getting the titles and the trophies and everything. They're going to international stages and they're slamming people. Like, well, that's not that too much. You know, we get a bit in Valorant, but your most like your longest titles have been League of Legends and Counter-Strike. Those are your legacy games. So what do you do? Is that what Valorant will be looking at in a couple of years? Was like, oh, we came into the stage, super impressive, international trophies, blah blah. And then not so much, because, well, you know, it's following the same path eventually as the other titles. So I think that you can rekindle that connection with the fans and say, listen, we suck. It is what it is, you know, but this is what we're doing. And to have those sort of regular communications with the fans while being honest and open, I think will be appreciated tenfold across the fan base than just
Right.
the fan base having to figure it out with themselves and
Oh,
just shouting at
yeah.
each other.
Like the whole grabs thing. Like, I don't mind grabs. I've never really got the hate that he's getting. When you coach guys or you do anything of this level, you're gonna have varied results. You're not always gonna win, like you said, or you're not always gonna lose. Sometimes you're gonna be just like middling. But we're at a point now where, you know, grabs goes on streams and he tanks all the aggro, as what he always calls it, from the
Yeah.
fans. And it's one of these things where he brought up the whole staff thing. But even when he had more staff last year, it didn't really result in anything of winning, right? So I'm kind of like you said before, what we're getting as far as communication doesn't work, though, because he had talked about, hey, I don't have enough staff, but you had these people last year. That didn't change anything, you know? So at this point, we're just getting, like, it sounds like a pivot every single time. It's like, hey, this isn't working. Well, it has to be this reason. It's not working for this reason. It's going to be for this reason. We know that they tried to get rid of Razork to Giant X or Heretics. That didn't work. They tried buying out Jun, which is crazy. They had Jun, gave him away. And they wanted to buy him back. So that kind of signifies to Jun that, hey, I'm probably more valuable to stay here if you want me back. It's oh, things are just
Yeah,
all over
that's
the
the thing
place.
is like there's all these elements where again it all comes down to the fans having to interpret themselves and grabs, I mean, he had more staff. The thing is, it's like it's like a balance. Like you had more staff last year, but you didn't have players that were working hard enough. Now you have more players that are willing to work hard, but you don't have the necessary staff. So it's like it's never getting to that equal level where you have everything that you need. And people are saying, well, at the time, Fnatic didn't have as much staff, and they were like, it's a completely different environment now where people understand much more what it means to perform at the high level, even in esports, which is just, oh, it's just geeks. No, it's pretty much it's as similar as to traditional sports as you can get at this stage now. So you need all those components if you want to be at the top, because this is what they're doing in Asia as well. Obviously, it's different budgets, it's different ecosystems,
Right, right.
but we're still competing at the same level when it comes to international tournaments. So we have to do that. So the thing is that that's my other thing is like I feel like Sam knew what esports was at the time when he started, and I feel like it got a bit too fast for him, and he didn't know to completely delegate properly. Where a lot of people said, "Oh, he shouldn't be the CEO or anything." It's like, no, it's his baby. You're not gonna take it out of his hands. But maybe he should have like someone who is the mouthpiece or who uh eats a bit more esports than because he's more on the business side of things, and he has other businesses other than Fnatic, which is completely fine. Like people always say, oh, well, on his Instagram, he's always on holiday, has a nice house on somewhere in Spain. That is right. That like he got his money, he did his stuff. That's absolutely fine. But
That's called
the thing
working
is
hard,
that his
people.
Instagram is open to the public, so they see that and they see League of Legends being completely shit. They're like, "Is this guy, making fun of us? Like, is this a joke?" It's
It's
like,
like that doll where he's like, "This is fine. Your house
yeah,
is good, but everything else is on
yeah.
fire." Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, no, that it's you have to understand the complexity of all of this, but at the same time, Sam has to be uh, you know, sort of aware that fans are going to follow him on Instagram when he puts it public, and they're going to look at his stories because they're looking for some information somewhere. So maybe on his Twitter, oh well, his Twitter, they've decided that it was ChatGPT, so we're going to dismiss that. So maybe pictures or something. Oh well, he's just hanging out with his friends, or he's on holiday. He's at the spa or something. Well, this guy is just never working. Yeah, he probably is, but he's not going to film himself at the office, or doing business meetings, or on Skype or on Teams or whatsoever. Yeah, that's the stuff that you don't see, but it should be communicated in some way. Like we should know exactly what's happening. Or you say, well, listen, I'm just going to be sort of the face of Fnatic because again, it's his baby. But there's this guy who's going to take more of that esports role, and Karn is the CGO, so he should be that person. But maybe you can have someone who's a bit more familiar with public communications and is a bit more dedicated to those things, while obviously still having Sam in a sort of executive form. So, that's the thing. It's like I feel like there's things that can be done, but I need to have some answers, and it cannot come from Grabs. Because Grabs, he's with his team, and he's not going to talk about Fnatic as a whole. Like he's going to talk about what he sees, what he's trying to do, and trying to give some hope to the players. When he himself is like, "Fuck me, man! Like I'm not getting the stuff that I've been asked." So I can do as much as possible, but what am I gonna say? Am I just gonna slander like Fnatic because they're not giving me the stuff that I want? Yeah, I kind of still want to have my job. So, he's on thin ice as well. So it's like, hey, guys at the top, time to take your responsibility, talk to the fans, say exactly what's happening, and then if we want to be frustrated, we'll know exactly why we're being frustrated. But at least you're giving us some answers to the questions and the false narratives that are being spread around. Because one last thing that I will add, fans take a lot of pride through the team that they support. And if
That's true. Yeah.
everybody's piling on them, well, they feel humiliated. And you're feeling humiliated, and your org is not sort of helping you out to sort of hope through
Yeah.
this. You're like,
Yeah.
well, you've completely abandoned us. So where do we look to sort of feel better? Because it's not going to be through the performances. So something's got to give at some point. So that's the thing is like, listen, guys, I know it's shit. You're not feeling good. You're getting trashed by all the other fan bases, especially right now. Like the vitriol has taken, and like at the time you used to have banter. Viola and I have got absolutely insane for a video game. And it's like, listen, guys, this is what's happening. I'm going to back you up. And there's still something to look forward to. Things are not as bad as they seem. They're not great, but it's under control at least. And we're actually working on it. And we're not just letting things follow their course. And hopefully it will eventually work out because the stars will once again align like they have done in previous years for Fnatic. It's like, we are committed to do this and we support our fans. And don't worry, guys, we are struggling with you. We have the same pains and everything, but we're here and we're communicating. And for me, that's the biggest issue that Fnatic, beyond the performances, I think
Yeah.
it's rekindling with the fans.
So the last few things we'll cover here before we head out is I want to just make sure I let people know this because this happens a lot in esports too. You don't always have to change everything. Unless the player willingly wanted to leave, which Mickey X situation, people say Fnatic kicked Mickey X. No, they actually didn't do that. He actually just willingly wanted to leave. That's just a factual thing. You guys can look up yourself. You don't believe me. What I think a lot of orgs like Fnatic should do, just a fan of like a viewer perspective, you don't have to change everything when something doesn't work, though. What is this thing where in esports everything has to change? No, some things work. You can keep certain pieces. Also, I want people to understand the reason why some of the Fnatic fans I've talked to, like yourself, the title thing matters a lot, is because this one thing needs to be understood. Domestic success is the only success most Western orgs are going to have. Like this notion that, well, you should only be focused on winning worlds. Just check now. You're not doing that. Okay, can we please get that out of our minds? The reason why I would value domestic success more in Western orgs than international success, sometimes barring, sparks here and there, once in a while upsets. You're not going to win those events, though. You're just not. Like, and keep in mind, I'm not saying you go into the event and just run it down. Because people, when they hear that, go, you're saying they should just run it. No, don't go there and pick like John a mid and just go 0-10. No one's saying that. What I'm saying is you need to temper what your actual expectations are. You win domestically, because like with sponsors, you probably know this sometimes too. It's like, hey, they like that. Hey, I'm making playoffs. I'm doing good content for you. I'm not just sitting here sucking. People don't understand winning domestically matters for orgs, so you can get like domestic sponsors and all that other stuff too. So this thing of like, hey, our goal is just winning worlds. It's like Western orgs aren't going to win worlds though. And what has proven that a Western org is going to win worlds in the last 10 years? What has proven that to you guys? What in your mind clicks in your head when you go, well, Western orgs should win worlds based off what? Because Fnatic and G2, when they went up against China in the last rounds when they went to Worlds Finals, they got 3-0'd. So pretty sure winning worlds, you should aim to do well at Worlds. Nothing, just write it down. But your goal should be, hey, let's try to do well domestically and see what we can do internationally, though. That's why for some fans of the org, it's like, hey, if we can't even win a trophy domestically, then fucking hell, what we got to look forward to, And hey, Fnatic, what's crazy with Fnatic, they've made a lot of finals in these last recent years too, but like, it's crazy they haven't even tripped over even won one of them. And the one you should have won, you're just like, what the hell? It's just God and karma just combined to just make sure it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Orange said, did I walk into a psychic reading? Good Lord. He's not an Avenger. He's just orange. But yeah, last few things I'll ask you before we head out, because I know it's late for you on the Europe side of it, is so three things. Three quick things. First thing is, are you going to continue to watch? So I'll just ask you it this way: do you watch the LEC games outside of the Fnatic games? Like, are you a fan of watching the games in general?
Yeah, I always took interest to understand what's going on, and also gives me an idea of where the team is compared to obviously the teams that are going a bit further into the competition, and I just like watching the competition in general.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna watch the finals and like internationals too. Okay, just make sure I got
especially since it's going to be in front of a big crowd in Barcelona.
You going to watch live?
I won't be going, but I'll be watching, because those. I mean, for having been to the Madrid summer split, summer playoffs, I should say, and then doing the Valorant World Finals in Paris. I live for those moments, man. Like, I lost my voice at both of those events, and it's great because I get to see the other fans as well. Some of those have become really good friends as well, and we just hang out afterwards. We go for drinks and everything. So it's just a great moment altogether. So I like watching those moments because it reminds me of those times where I had the chance to to live them live, and just it's such a unique event as well, and experience that anytime I get the chance to do it, and especially support my team, uh, I'm definitely on board.
The other thing is, do you have anything planned coming up that you would like to let the audience know about?
Well, not necessarily right now. It's just continuing with my content on Inside Fanatics Brush. Obviously, if you're a big fan, make sure to follow both on the Twitter and YouTube. I try to be as regular as possible when I can, doing a video after every week of competition. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of a drought here, but I'll be doing a video next that won't be a game review, but that'll be more of bit of some of the elements that we've talked about, of my analysis of what's going on with Fnatic and what I would like to see from the organization.
Awesome. And the very last thing is, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone in particular, and anything else you want to say before we head out?
Well, I would say, first of all, shout out to everyone who's been supporting and watching my content for over the years. I really appreciate it, especially since I'm doing this all on my own, on the little free time that I have after my job. So I really support you guys, watching and giving me the feedback. And even like at one event, I had someone approach me and say, "Are you the guy from Inside Fanatics Plus?" I was like, "Oh, I'm that level." That was pretty cool. And I'll do a quick shout out as well to the Fnatic French fan base, the Statics, who I'm a big part of, and we do a lot of content. We've been doing also like podcasts with people from the French scene, so French casters for the LEC, and we're going to be doing more content. So big shout out to them. They do a lot of hard work to bring the community together and do big things during the event. So a big hi to them.
Awesome. But it's crazy. They're probably really biased towards Karmine Corp right now, currently. Oh my god, dude! It's always French on French action in the LEC. It's either a bunch of Spanish orgs or French orgs.
Yeah.
Like Vitality, one of like the OG French orgs, haven't even sniffed what Karmine Corp. It's Vitality is the funniest story. Karmine Corp has won more trophies than Vitality's ever done in the entire league. Actually, more final. Who forget Vitality's never even been to a finals ever. The highest they've had was a third place match. They lost that too. So but as you guys know from me myself, I love watching League, whether I'm watching LPL, LEC, LCS, CBLOL sometimes, and all that stuff. But it's always good to talk to people that have been in that have been in it this long, like yourself, because we can have all these memories of like, damn, remember when Nemesis joined Fnatic? He's talking about witchcraft. Man, it's talking about witchcraft now, bro. What are you doing in life? What the fuck? But as you guys know, more episodes of the Cloud9 podcast will be coming. There's going to be a little bit of some changes here coming up soon, but hope you guys enjoy them. And thank you guys for checking out this episode of the Cloud9 podcast. It was great talking to Madscot for the first time. Can't wait to have him on again in the future. And we will see you guys later.